And then she went on to say, Arunachal, not India, China. Your visa not acceptable. Your basically passport is invalid. Very confusing moment, obviously, because never heard of that before. We obviously are a proud Indian citizens.
On November 21st, 2025, Prema Wangjom Thongdok, a UK-based Indian woman from Arunachal Pradesh, was detained for over 18 hours at Shanghai Pudong Airport during a layover. Chinese officials declared her Indian passport invalid because it listed Arunachal, claimed by China as South Tibet, as her birthplace, mocked her identity, and pressured her to apply for a Chinese one before releasing her after Indian consular intervention. Thongdok, an Indian citizen from Arunachal Pradesh who has been living in the UK for about 14 years, was travelling from London to Japan for a holiday with a 3-hour layover in Shanghai. She had a valid Japanese visa and had even transited through Shanghai last year without any issues.
Well, one of the officials from the Chinese immigration came over and singled me out of the queue. Basically said, "Look, India, took my name and something and took me out." So I asked her what is happening, and she basically didn't say much and just basically asked me to follow her. Took me close to the e-gates where there is the immigration. The manual counters for the immigration, and then she went on to say, Arunachal, not India, China. Your visa not acceptable. Your basically passport is invalid. Very confusing moment, obviously, because never heard of that before. We obviously are a proud Indian citizens, all residents of Arunachal Pradesh. And basically, she wouldn't give me an explanation. She wouldn't let me go back into the queue. Said you cannot board the plane. Then other officials came. So actually, I probably interacted with around 10 other immigration officers. So another lady came, took me to another part of the airport. And in fact, when I tried to question them and ask them what was the issue, they said Arunachal is not part of India, very clearly. And they said you should apply, and started mocking and laughing and saying things like, you should apply for Chinese passport, you're Chinese, you're not Indian. Some mockery around there. Then basically they took me to the transfer desk of China Eastern, which is next to an immigration desk, and they would just keep basically sending me from one desk to the other. So if I ask the Chinese airline, they tell me to go to the immigration tells me to go to them. And they basically didn't give me a straight answer. I said, where is the law? What rights have you got to hold me back here? So ultimately, it took about 18 hours for me to get out of Shanghai.
The incident didn't just end with her complaint. According to government sources, India lodged a strong démarche, a formal diplomatic protest with China in both Beijing and New Delhi on the same day the detention took place. The Indian consulate in Shanghai also took up the case locally, sent officials to the airport, provided her food, and helped secure her exit after the extended detention.
There wasn't a proper space given to us to basically rest after a 12-hour flight all the way from London. At one point in time, because I kept going up to them every hour or so, asking them what is the issue, why they're holding me back, what legal rights or rules do you have that says that Indian nationals, and they would just dismiss every time I tried to speak to them, in fact, in a very unprofessional manner. There was one point in time when I was near the counter desk trying to speak to them, and there was about 3 or 4 airline staff of China Eastern and about 2 other immigration officers, and all of them were basically speaking in their language and saying and pointing out and saying Arunachal, and laughing and calling it China, no India. So that kind of very humiliating, questionable behavior from the immigration staff as well as the airline staff. Yeah, so it was quite an ordeal until finally I got hold of a friend, basically by using their landline. I basically said to them, look, I have legal rights. I need to call a lawyer or something. You have to give me ways to communicate with somebody. Nobody knows I'm stuck here. So I called up a friend in London. They helped me to basically get the details, because even if I had a little bit of internet, it doesn't open Google, so I couldn't find the immigration details. So I called up the Shanghai and Beijing Indian embassies, and within an hour, very, very, helpful, in fact, and very glad that the Indian officials came to the airport, and then basically they got me some food and basically spoke through the issues with them and helped me get out of the country. So
to understand why this happened, you have to look at the bigger India-China dispute over Arunachal Pradesh. China refers to the state as Zhangnan or South Tibet and claims it as its own territory. India has repeatedly rejected this as absurd, senseless, vain and preposterous, and says that Arunachal Pradesh was, is and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India.
China may repeat its baseless claims as many times as they want. That is not going to change the position. Arunachal Pradesh was, is and will remain always remain an integral and inalienable part of India.
For Prema, this was meant to be a simple transit stop on the way to Japan. Instead, it turned into what she calls a humiliating 18-hour ordeal, with her identity and citizenship questioned because of where she was born. The incident underlines how a long-running border dispute can spill over into everyday spaces, even an airport transit corridor, and why India keeps repeating one line over and over. Arunachal Pradesh is India. Its people are Indian. Their passports are Indian.